So Don Blankenship seems to have lost tonight. He was an awful person running in the Republican primary in West Virginia. Alison, you're running in the California primary in the Senate, and California is different than West Virginia. It's not Republican and Democrats. It's everyone together. The top two make it into the general election. And Feinstein's the incumbent. She's polling very poorly. 39% underwater for an incumbent is bad. Underwater meaning under 50%. But in the latest Survey USA poll, which is literally unbelievable, I cannot believe it. Number two is Patrick Little at 18%. You know, it's super hard to get anywhere near 10%, and somehow he's at 18%. There's 32 people in the field, and he appears to be a neo-Nazi. So he says Adolf Hitler was one of the great leaders in world history, and he doesn't mean in an intellectual or historical context. By the way, you shouldn't say that in any context. No, he says the Jews run the country, and then he's going to liberate us from the Jewish oligarchy or whatever that crazy conspiracy theories that he has. When the Republicans kicked him out of their convention this weekend, he stood on an Israeli flag and spit on it, etc. He's obsessed. He's a total maniac. So I don't know what's going on. You're in the race, Alison. What in the world do you think's going on?
I think that people just don't actually know about him. You know, people tend to vote down ballot by and large, and they see his name, maybe it sounds more Republican than the others, and so they like vote for him compared to the other Republicans on there. But there's no way that they know about him because the Republicans in California, by and large, are not that kind of neo-Nazi right-wing conservative. And I have a lot of conservatives in my life, a lot of Republicans, most of my family, many friends. I was born and raised in Orange County. People always look at me like, no way, you did not come from Orange County. But yeah, you know, this is what happens when you try to raise me a Republican. I go the exact opposite. No, but you know, my friends and family who are Republican, and some of them who voted for Trump, would never, ever, ever vote for Trump or Little if they really understood these things, if they really heard and listened to these things. So it's going to be up to us to make sure people understand who Little is, especially if they're planning to vote on the Republican ticket.
Yeah, so I think it gets into a broader issue because there's 32 candidates. There's about 3 of you that I think have a chance, right? And maybe I'm wrong and maybe I'm biased on it because I support your campaign. But so the Republicans have no name at all. To be fair, you started with very little name recognition. I don't think that should be the standard at all. So I'm not saying that remotely. Now, you started with no money. The Republicans have no money. There was no big name, big money guy in the Republican side, okay? Everyone outside of Dianne Feinstein and the state rep in the race had no money, okay? Except there's one other guy who's self-financing, right? Okay, so then in a race like that, how do you decide? And if you're the media, and it is an interesting question, there's 32 people. How do you decide who's real and who's not real? And so my sense of it is 2 metrics that make sense. No, I'll say 3 metrics that make sense. And because in races that I'm not involved in and don't, you know, have a candidate that I worked with before, as I've worked with Alison, and the reason I'm involved is because I know how great she is. She ran Wolfpack for all those years and did an amazing job. And she not only organized all those people, but actually achieved the things that she set out to achieve and passed the resolution in 5 states, et cetera. So I'm just laying all my cards on the table. But for races that I don't know any of the candidates, I look at it like who's got momentum. Now, how do you judge momentum when no one but the incumbent has money, and the incumbent has money from corporate donations? So that's just a proxy for, in my mind, corruption, right? So one is volunteers. Can you motivate enough volunteers to join you? Is that that to me means one, that your message is resonating. 2, you're able to organize people. You're an effective manager, right? 2 is social media. Are people talking about you? Again, does your message resonate? Is that getting spread around the internet? None of these are perfect, but there's something. 3 is how much money did you raise among small donors, right? Not among big donors, because I know the rest of the media is obsessed with the big donors, but it's easy to raise money from Lockheed Martin. You just go, hey, Lockheed Martin, would you like another war? Great, I'll vote for another war. Give me $1 million. Or in fact, of course, they're not going to give it directly, do an independent expenditure, give it to my PAC, et cetera, et cetera. It's super easy to get money from, you name it, a pharmaceutical company. I mean, you know what Feinstein did? She said in a town hall, I am not for Medicare for all right now. She thinks it's a government takeover. That's a Republican talking point. A week later, she went and raised money from healthcare companies. Super easy to raise money that way. You want me to sell out people? I'll sell them out, right? But raising small donor money, not easy, right? So if you do those three things, I think that should be the new standard for the media for how you're doing a race. Now, in this case, I know the answer, and we talked about it a little bit earlier, but social media, you're beating all the other candidates combined in California, including Patrick Little and Feinstein and KDL and everybody else combined. So volunteers, I don't know if you know the answer to this. So I know that you've got over 1,700 volunteers. Do you know how many volunteers the other people have?
Nobody's talking about it, and if they're not talking about it, there's a reason for it.
That's a good point. And then how about on the third metric in terms of small donor money?
I am beating everybody. I am at 72% of small donors. We have Dianne Feinstein. She's at, actually have it here. Her small dollars are at 5%. Yeah. And KDL's are at under 8%.
So this KDL guy, he's the state legislator that the rest of the press takes seriously, even though he does terrible in the polling, okay? So again, the polling is really hard. I'm not, in that sense, I'm being fair to him. It's not easy to rise up in the polling. The rest of the press think, since they know him because he's been in the state government and he's an established politician, that everybody knows him. No, nobody knows him. You probably never heard of him until we mentioned his name, right? And so, but if KDL was a real progressive, and he wasn't taking corporate PAC money, and he had raised 80% of his money from small donors, I'd say, well, look, give the guy a lot of credit, right? And you should think about supporting him. But if he's raising
under 8%.
Under 8% from small donors, well, that's all PACs and giant donors. That's not going to give you any change. That's you said it the other day to me on the phone. That's not the someone challenging the establishment. That's the establishment's backup plan.
Yes, exactly. And so he's taking 86% from big donors, right? Over $200. And the thing is, it's not that other people can't also, especially when you're getting the kind of free media that he is, it's not like you can't be using that to tell people, hey, I need you to donate, I need you to volunteer. He's not even trying. He and Dianne Feinstein are not even trying. And it is just glaringly obvious. And the good news is that the true progressive base in California knows it. We are very, very aware of it. Just because you throw around the word progressive does not mean that you are. And you cannot claim that you're progressive and you support progressive policies if you're going to continue to take money from the very people that we are all progressive because of.
Yeah, and so look, if you're in California, AlisonHartson.com/go is to donate, because she actually cares to have you engaged, and she needs small dollar donors because she's not taking any PAC money, period, right? And AlisonHartson.com/now to become a volunteer. You could become a volunteer from any state, and you could make calls and stuff. And then obviously go and vote. Mail-in ballot begins, but. So that's important, and I want to tell you that. But I also want to, if you don't live in California, I want you to know how you should view candidates, and the prism that you could look at to see, are they trying hard? Are they going to represent you? If you get 72% of your donations from small donors, you'll serve small donors, meaning actual voters.
Yeah.
And in the case of California, back to the Patrick Little, the crazy neo-Nazi that's running in the race. If that guy, in whatever poll, however flawed that poll was, gets 18%, that means anyone could finish second. Anyone, right? That means the race is wide open, which is really energizing. So what you don't want is Little and Feinstein in the general election, which is 2016 on steroids. That's Feinstein out-Hillarying Hillary, and Patrick Little being Trumpier than Trump.
10% more Trumpy than Trump.
I mean, you want to talk about the lesser of two evils, right? So, but luckily, the voting's June 5th. You can do it right this time. Alison Hartson has almost the same platform as Bernie Sanders. Go on AlisonHartson.com, look at what she stands for. And so let's get it right this time. In a sense, it could be a moment of redemption for progressives overcoming what happened in 2016.